our jurisdictional conference next summer to find out what we're going to be focusing on. I have some good energy to give. I've experienced good energy in your midst, so I know you have good energy to give. So let us give it to ministry. Now, we'll still work collaboratively across our area, and probably more collaboratively than we ever have, because we need to. And we gain strength from one another when we engage collaboratively. I have gone to all 3 conferences. I've been looking and I've been listening. And I have it on good authority that each conference has immense talents and gifts that can bless the other 2 greatly. I want us to share that so that we can all rise up. And I know we have relational and healing work to do, and we will do it. And I say that because in going around, I figured out that the connections across the area are not what I thought they were. I may have gotten it wrong, but it's one man's opinion. I'm on the mic. I'm sharing. And I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just a reality as I see it. And because I see it that way, all that means to me is that there is work to do. Not frightened by it. Won't run from it. And I won't deny it. It just means there's work to do. I can see that within each conference there are varieties of cultures and levels of trust that factor into almost every decision and assumption. Regionalism is a big thing here. I had no idea. Your regionalism within each conference is astounding. But I'm not afraid of it. I even see that as a gift that could bless us. Because that just means there are more opportunities for more people to share the gospel and to be caught up in this MILE across our region. That's why this passage about the Samaritan speaks to us from so many angles. Because there's so much going on in this text. Just like there's so much going on in our annual conferences and throughout our area. That's why I invite you to get ready to come along for this journey. It's only a mile. It's only an MILE. But there's so much to see. It's a little right. MILE. So much to see. There's so much to see, to become, and to do on this mile. So to recap this for you, of course you can go to our conference website and you can see the full sermons that spell it out. They're all great. They're all wonderful. I tell myself that every day, so it's all there. You can go there and you can see them, and we'll be working on a resource to make it even easier for you. But if you can't wait, they are there. But in this ministry that matters, we zero in on issues around housing and health. And in housing, we're talking about affordability, access, and security. Some of you have heard me talk about repurposing underutilized overjoyed at the Oregon-Idaho conference as congregation after congregation came forward and shared what they were already doing or imagining doing in the area of housing in their conference. That was exciting. And I know in Pacific Northwest, there are already some projects that are underway. In fact, even this sanctuary we're sitting in right now is a part of a future development plan. So it's happening all around us. When I was in Alaska, we talked about the housing crisis. Yes, even in Alaska. And someone said, especially in Alaska. And so, because of that, we have to put on hold notions of selling closed churches until we have a plan and workable strategy for how funds or properties may be best used for ministry that matters. Because sometimes you can have too much money. Because you can lose your mind when you get too much money. You ever seen those lottery winner shows? And those people just suddenly come into all that money and then, oh, y'all don't watch those? Oh, okay, all right. I've seen them, you know. I'm willing to see if I lose my mind or not, but, y'all come get me. The bishop has lost it, you know. He got his millions and now he lost it, you know, so you come rescue me. And on the issue of health, we're talking about preparedness, prevention, and equity, and health is a broad area. We're talking about mental health, physical health, public health, climate care, health of the earth, our environment. We're talking about lessening our carbon footprint through daily and consistent acts in our homes and in our churches. Grateful for the conversations in the Pacific Northwest and the legislation that was passed around climate justice, and how it called for us not to just challenge organizations and institutions to do better, but challenged us individually and challenged our churches to do better. Also along this effort, this came up in each of the laity sessions. The question was usually phrased something like, what can we do to get young people back engaged in our church? And what I said to them was, the reality is, young people have spirituality, or long for it. They're finding and making community in ways that make sense for them. And it looks nothing like what works for us or what we offer to them. They are out and about in the world, participating in service and mission in a variety of ways. They are a part of organizations and movements that are out-churching the church. And so the role for the church is not to stay in this posture of y'all come, we have all the answers and we have everything that y'all need, because they are not coming. They don't trust you, they don't understand you, they don't like you. Because you feel the same way about them. Or at least your policies and your practices communicate that you feel the same way about them. So instead of the church being in this, y'all come to our church and do what we will allow you to do, if we allow you to do anything, and we may allow you to do something if you are just like us. So instead of doing this, I think the posture for the church is now this. And what I mean by that is we have to go outside of position. Our position is second or third, making sure those efforts can grow and flourish. Oh, what a witness. Just imagine all the things that we could help go if we stopped doing this and did more of this. Because then we'd be where the people are that we say we want to be where we are. And so the I then is itineration and location. And again, you've heard some of this, but some of you haven't heard anything. So let me make sure. It's just a little commercial, just a little teaser to get you to go get the whole thing. But this itineration and location, it's about getting pastoral leaders where they can thrive. Not just where they can get by, where they can thrive. It's about ensuring our congregations will receive and support the pastoral leader that they need. Not the one they want. Not the one that satisfies who you were 50 years ago in your heyday, but the one that will satisfy you today, tomorrow, and in the days to come, because they are reflecting the best of who you can be, not who you were. You've heard me say that open itineracy is a fallacy, it's a thing of the past. Go ahead, write your charges, send them in. But prove me wrong. Churches and communities need to be served, but in our area, there are churches and communities that are unsafe for some to be sent to. That's just a reality. I didn't make that up. It's reality. And as long as that's true, we cannot have open itineracy. And as long as we have salary structures the way that we have them now, we've already priced out many of our congregations from having a pastoral leader. Which means we have when I say a pastoral leader, let me clean that up. We've priced ourselves out of having a trained, clearly Wesleyan pastoral leader. So if we really had equitable compensation, then we wouldn't have to hear someone say, I'll take a financial hit if I go there. Or the cabinet say, wait a minute, this will be a reduction in salary for this person if we move them from this church to that church. If we had equitable compensation, that conversation would be off the table. But instead, we call equitable compensation a little hand-me-down to make up the gap between what the church has to get it to the minimum, which means we're keeping people at the minimum. And we call it equitable. I mean, I'll be honest, I did vote for myself, but some of y'all did too, okay? In this piece of itineration and location, it's also about determining how we retool laity and clergy to serve in these emerging contexts of ministry where the needs of the context are a higher priority than the needs of the congregation. Because there are some congregations that get in the way of us being in ministry in particular contexts. And that's all I'm going to say about that right there. This is also about creating more cooperative and team ministry opportunities for our pastoral leaders and for our congregations and incentivizing them to do so. Because some of us don't play well with others. And I mean that for pastoral leaders and for congregations. Some of us we just won't, we don't. But guess what? You will be asked to do so, and you will be trained to do so. And then you'll have some other decisions to make. Because we have to get We're just praying that they will hear God speak and reveal what their purpose is. And this is not about licensed or ordained ministry. If that's where it ends up, great. We heard the video from Claremont with Jerry. I almost ran around this sanctuary as I saw Jerry come on that screen, because I was at the Claremont graduation a few weeks ago. And Jerry came up to me and she says, Bishop. She says, look at me. I was an SBRC chair and now I'm graduating seminary. Because when I was Los Angeles District Superintendent and I went to West LA UMC to introduce Gary and Janet, Gary Oba, which those of you from Oregon, Idaho would know, and Janet Cromwell. When I went to introduce them, Jerry was the SPRC chair. And she says, I don't know how this works. You'll have to help me. I said, no problem. No problem. Now she called me every 2 or 3 days, like, now what do I do now? What do I do next? And now what do we do? But Gary and Janet went there and had a very fruitful ministry, and under their pastoral leadership, helped Jerry discern a call to go to seminary. I don't know what's after that for her, but that's just the path she was on. I would have been equally as excited if Jerry would have come up to me at that graduation and said, I'm an usher. I was SBRC chair now, and look at me, I'm an usher. Or I was SBRC chair and now I'm preparing to go on a mission trip. Or I was SBRC chair and now I'm volunteering 3 days a week as a crossing guard just so I can ensure that our children can get to and from school safely. All of it needs to be celebrated. All of it. And then that brings us to the E, elimination of racism. And again, it's at the end because we have to spell the word. M-I-L-E. And on this path of eliminating, in this work of eliminating racism, the work here is about examining our policies, our structures, and our behaviors that perpetuate racism so that we can make the changes and reparations necessary to move us toward a just and equitable space and reality where all are truly included in the neighbor enterprise. And I know that there's work already underway in many of our places of ministry. The issue is, you didn't hear me say work is already underway in all of our ministries. But here's the thing, this work must go beyond our congregations, for sure. But we cannot sit in our racist and oppressive systems that we perpetuate and protect so that we can secure our paycheck and bang on the gates of schools, government buildings, and other entities yelling about how much they need to change. I recognize that all of us are at different places. And I believe we can all move in the same direction, even if we're at different places. And that direction has to be as anti-racist as we can within a larger cultural and political context that is based on capitalistic and democratic principles that thrive on racism. And yes, we replicate many of those within the United Methodist Church. Since we are all at different places, we need a variety of ways for every pastoral leader, every layperson, and every ministry setting to get in the flow of things. So we're going to provide resources for you. We're going to provide resources for book studies, provide ways for you to access speakers, ways for guides for you to have courageous and in being conservative and missing. We need everybody in the conversation and in the work. There is room and work for all of us to do. To that end, we already contracted with Beth Zimsky to work with us over the next 12 to 18 months to do some of this deep reflection and intentional engagement around our policies and our structures. The consultant won't do the work for us. The consultant will guide us in doing our work. We'll do this in cohorts, and we believe by engaging cohorts of ministry and congregational leaders, we will unearth much of what has buried our sensibilities and sensitivities to how accustomed we are to behaving in unneighborly and inhospitable ways among ourselves and with our neighbors. Our work with the consultant will begin in the September-October timeframe. And this will lead us to expose what we will do to move ahead with a greater sense of how our culture can change as we make different choices about what we assume and how we choose to engage. By September, we will have phase 1 of options for you to choose from as you determine where you are on the journey to becoming anti-racist. We want you to get started, or we want you to continue or intensify the work that you are already doing. Again, we're all at different places. Now, you may hear this, you may chuckle, you may try to dismiss it, you may say, I'm not a racist. That may be true. However, as long as you are a member of any institution with its roots in these United States of America, you have anti-racism work to do. So you can claim, I'm not racist, but you still have anti-racism work to do. You should also note that we will not require or expect our congregations and leaders of color to take the lead on this work. Nor will we give a pact that they are excused from doing the work. It will look different in every committee, congregation, and community, but we'll do it if we're committed to eliminating racism. This is not a spectator sport. This is one reason we're going to have to find our way to health, healing, and wholeness in our IV room. See, it's back already. Because we have someone who is respected and called upon from all around the country to do intercultural competency work in the person of Christina Goodlove. And we need her engaged in this work here. Not just in title, and not just listed somewhere down in her portfolio. We need her engaged. We can't get her back to that while we're still turning tables from the past, looking for whatever it is we're looking for. And hear me say that I am willing to work with you to find a healthy, collaborative, and nimble way forward. I'm not willing to fight a fight that has no end, that has a moving target, or no clear talking points. I understand. I've been listening. I understand there were some issues of inequity, racism, and perceived lack of transparency, and those need to be addressed, and some of them already have been addressed. It's sort of like, I feel like I walked into a room and my parents were having an argument or having a discussion, and they won't tell me what it's about, yet I feel responsible for whatever it is. And that So let's have the tough conversations. Let's challenge ourselves to do more and be better than ever. I believe in you. Those 4 words that Derek Nakano shared in a devotional at the Oregon Idaho Conference. I believe in you. Let's ensure we have people of color represented in all of our processes and our structures. But let's be sure when we say persons of color that we don't define POC as some and not all. Let's also be aware that we have a limited number of people of color or persons of color in our churches and even in our area. So let's be realistic and sensitive to the reality that we may be asking the conference structures to work with folks you have yet to invite into your churches or your communities. Might we also be aware that economics is a demographic indicator, and most of what we require and expect is truly UMC, upper middle class. Let's also do a new thing. Let's do what we need to do to move safely and timely away from the mirror. There is need for vital ministry in every place where we are, where we have disaffiliations and places and people we have dismissed or abandoned. We have need of ministry. Who's willing to stay on this side of the road and journey this MIF? Who's willing to give the Samaritans in your life, in your congregation, in your town, a chance? Who's willing to go do some window work? That's the question. We'll find the answer together. Thanks be to God.
All right, we're going to sing some more songs now, and so this is also your opportunity to respond to the message, and by lighting candles for your prayers, or respond through singing, or you can write a joy concern connection card and put it in the basket. All to Jesus.
see any joys or concerns written up, so I don't have anything to say on that one, except,
Well, let's
are
mention
you doing sign
Deb.
language?
Let's mention Debbie.
I was.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, Ted and I are asking prayers for Deb. She took her, where was she? Oregon City this morning, and she fell. Didn't think she could walk, so Will was headed over to Oregon City to get her and get her whatever medical attention she needs. That's the only one I have. Okay. Join me in the benediction, please. Do not be dismayed by the brokenness of the world. All things break, and all things can be mended. Not with time, as they say, but with tension. So go, love intentionally, extravagantly, unconditionally. The broken world waits in darkness for the light. That is you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this morning. And join us upstairs for coffee and treats.